For the town of Windsor, thank you for joining us for our youth sports presentation, Start Your Sports Season on the Right Foot. I'm Bobby Warner, the Recreation Supervisor in charge of athletics. I grew up in Windsor, along with my wife, Michelle, and 2 children. We all went to Windsor schools and graduated from Windsor High School. I've worked for the town of Windsor for over 20 years, and during that time, Windsor has seen many changes, including population growth. Due to the growth, we have added amenities like the rec center and have added and adjusted programming. We have always attempted to think outside the box, but for this year, we're not even in the box. Due to the worldwide pandemic, COVID-19, we have had to think totally differently. Despite the pandemic, we are excited to offer 3 sports this fall, including flag football, soccer, and volleyball. They will all look a little different, especially volleyball, but we are happy to offer them, keeping in mind the safety of our families, volunteers, and staff. During this presentation, we will discuss the upcoming youth fall season, expected parent behaviors, COVID-19 protocols, and get a training about concussions from release of Banner Health. In this picture, you will see some of our athletic staff, which include from right to left, Logan Anderson, Tiki Lee, and Josh Sandin. Also part of our athletics team, not pictured, our Recreation Supervisor, Jay Eckhart, and Recreation Specialist, Tyler Ackelson. Logan is coordinating volleyball. Tiki is in charge of soccer. Jay coordinates flag football. Tyler handles all of our outdoor fields and courts, and Josh, along with coordinating adult softball, helps with all of our youth programming. This is a new reality. Picture this, or just put yourself in this picture. Let's say you are a youth sport parent, and practice starts in 30 minutes. In your head, you have a checklist of all the things you need to gather and get done before you drive your child to practice. Part of your checklist includes needing to get your child's cleats. Remember, your coach would like your child to wear his or her jersey, so you need to find that. You need to fill a water bottle. You need to find a water bottle. Remind your child to go to the bathroom before you leave, which could be a struggle. Now you also need to remember hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, and a mask. Practice now starts in 15 minutes. Well, hopefully it'll only take you about 5 minutes to get to the park. You gather everything up, load up the car, and drive to the park. Traffic was good. It only took you about 5 minutes. You still have 10 minutes prior to the practice starting. You explain to your child, okay, we have a few minutes due to the COVID-19 protocols about not getting on the field too early. You explain, we will wait in the car for just about 5 minutes. You don't hear anything from your child. You then look in the rearview mirror and you don't see anything. At that moment, you've just realized you had forgotten your child. It's a challenge being a youth sport parent. We have a lot of things to remember. With COVID-19, it's now even more challenging. Do your best. And with everything you need to remember, probably remembering your child is number 1. No one predicted we would be in a worldwide pandemic. It is challenging. We all have had to make some tough choices. Some parents have lost jobs. Some parents' jobs are uncertain. We had to choose if our child goes to in-person learning or virtual, and childcare is uncertain. With all that, we thank you for choosing to participate in the town of Windsor Youth Sports. Remember, everyone is in a different place. This slideshow shows all the things people could possibly be thinking. We ask that during the youth sports experience, respect others and be kind. There are many reasons that kids play youth sports. Sometimes it's only because you registered your child. The number 1 reason, though, kids play sports is because it's fun. Many people think winning is the number 1 reason. If you look at the survey for boys, winning is number 8, and for girls, it's number 12. In order for your child to continue to play, we have implemented strategies which include parent and coaches trainings to help your child have fun in youth sports. Usually games are fun for kids. Games are a lot of people, and there is excitement of playing another team. Based on this survey, practices also need to be fun. Successful coaches have a lesson plan, similar to a teacher. The coach has the whole practice planned and timed out. Included in those lesson plans, some strategies include splitting players into groups for drills. Some drills will focus on the sport, while others include PE-type programs or PE-type games. With that said, in order to split players into groups, coaches need help. Please volunteer to help your coach at practice. If you volunteer to run a drill, remember to follow the coach's plan for that drill. Coaches also need to learn the players' names. Think of how important it is when your child goes to practice and your coach greets him or her. Hey, Johnny, I'm glad you're here. How was school today? I'm so happy you're on our team. I once asked my son after picking him up from practice, how was practice today? He said, it was okay. So I followed up by asking, why, what happened? He said, we didn't scrimmage today. My son incorporated scrimmaging with having fun in practice. Coaches who incorporate half of their practice with scrimmage usually don't have a good fundamentally sound teams, or they didn't have a lesson plan. Scrimmage many times can focus on the kids that are higher skilled while the others don't get much practice. Scrimmages need to happen, but not very often. Coaches can incorporate drills that include competition and being short-sighted to give the opportunity for the kids on the team to be learned and to be successful. These strategies help make practices more fun. And this is what we don't want to see. This following clip shows a 9-year-old holding a press conference on why he has quit youth sports, mainly because it's not fun.
I'm here to announce my retirement from sports. Baseball, basketball, all of them. I feel like it's time. The pressure that it takes to play at my age is just too much. So I'm done with the endless advice from parents to keep my head up, to keep my head down, to keep my head in the game. I know you think you helped. I'm walking away from the coaches that left me on the bench every time the game was on the line. I'm sure they'll agree I'm leaving at the peak of my career. I'll miss my friends and the fun we had when we were young. I said I'd play this game as long as I was having fun. And now, it's time to call it quits. Any questions?
Who do you think can fix these issues?
Parents, leagues, coaches, everyone.
What are you going to do with all your free time?
Whatever's fun. Thank you.
In Windsor, recreational sports, we just let the good kids play and just take money from the rest. That's not how we do things. Our main objective is for your child and you as a parent to have fun participating in youth sports, which includes equal playing time. If your child attends regular practices, he or she will get equal playing time at games. Your coach is responsible for your child at practices, expect them to be there. If for some reason your child can't be at practice, please contact your coach. Here's what our Windsor kids say about playing youth sports in Windsor.
That I get to have fun. It's fun. So you get to make baskets and run around and try and get the ball. I just like getting better at basketball so I can play it at home. It's one of my favorite things to do. I like my parents watching me because they cheer for me. I want my mom and dad to cheer. It makes me feel very happy. It makes me my parents cheer.
Town of Windsor uses outside resources for training, including National Alliance for Youth Sports, NCSI for background screenings, Banner Health for concussion trainings, and Team Sideline for scheduling and team communication. Tiki has recorded a tutorial video along with an instruction sheet about Team Sideline. You can find that on teamsideline.com/Windsor. Link was also forwarded to you in an email. This slide shows you what you'll see on their website. This is where you can find schedules, practices and games, rules and updates, and for weather delays or cancellations. We're always in need of volunteer coaches, and we appreciate our coaches' time and effort. We always tell them, wait for your check in the mail, because that never comes. Requirements for being a volunteer coach includes background screening, concussion training, and sport-specific trainings. Coaches need your help. Some coaches are great at asking for help, some are not. There are several things a parent can do to help without being an official coach, which includes helping at practices, phone calls, snack lists, and more. If you're just helping without being screened, you are not officially coached, but your help during practices and during the season is much appreciated. Next slide talks about our Windsor coaches and what they have to say about youth sports.
The main thing is what youth sports can do for young children, which is teach them discipline and teamwork and being part of something that's more important than just, individual.
It's good for them. It's good. Instead of playing video games or being inside, they're out running around on the ball field or here in the court. And hey, if you're going to be there, you might as well help coaching them and help teaching them some valuable lessons in life.
Youth sports are so important because that's how they build their foundation. So helping them learn the skills, build their fundamentals so that as they age, they can work on those and become even better.
The growth that happens, the development from practice 1 to game end is often huge. There's incredible value in that. And if your kid's interested in sports, why not be involved?
So those are coaches who are also parents. So your time as a youth sport parent, we ask that you be a role model for your child and others. Please make only encouraging comments. Focus on the fun. Help your coaches by getting them to practice and games on time, getting your kids on practice and games on time, and helping at practice and with snacks and communication, and let the coaches coach. The following clip is from the National Alliance from Youth Sports and gives tips about the upcoming season and how you can make it enjoyable.
Here are 10 tips to keep in mind this season. 1. Don't treat games as life and death struggles. Of course, kids are going to be disappointed when their teams don't win or when their performances aren't as well as they had hoped for. These are valuable lessons for kids to learn, dealing with disappointment and, of course, bouncing back. Everyone encounters setbacks in the world. It's how we respond to them that makes and defines our character. 2. Don't live vicariously through your kids. Look, if your athletic career didn't pan out as you had hoped, don't use your child to try to salvage a piece of your childhood. Let them enjoy their experiences. And if they discover a sport they want to fully devote themselves to and take seriously, they'll let you know. But let those words come from their hearts, not from your pushing. 3, cheer for everyone and criticize no one. Of course, you'll be cheering for your child and his or her teammates, but don't refrain from applauding a great play or display of good sportsmanship simply because the youngster is on the opposing team. Remember, this is youth sports. Think about how good that child will feel to hear parents from opposing teams recognize him or her, and think about the boost in confidence and self-esteem your child would enjoy hearing the same from opposing parents. Set a standard of behavior in the stands for all parents. It can be contagious, and everyone benefits. 4, treat coaches on both teams as well as the officials with respect. Keep in mind, they are doing the best they can. If you find yourself unhappy with their efforts, volunteer to coach or officiate. Programs are always looking for dedicated individuals to help out. 5, be a positive source of motivation. Of course, coaches play key roles in motivating their players if they have a handle on the right buttons to push with each individual. But no one knows a child better than you, the parent. Goal setting can be a great tool for positive motivation. 6, control your emotions. These aren't miniature adults. College scholarships are not at stake, and future endorsement deals aren't being squandered simply because your child commits an error or you think the official made a bad call. Dial down the intensity when you find yourself prone to outbursts. 7, be a model of good sportsmanship at all times. It doesn't matter what the score is or what call has been made. You must be all in on good sportsmanship all the time, not just when the game is in your child's favor. 8, treat the playing field, the court, the rink, like your child's classroom. Think about it. You wouldn't shout negative comments during class because it's completely inappropriate. So doing so during games where children have the opportunity to learn valuable life skills is equally unacceptable. 9, refrain from consuming alcohol or using any form of tobacco. You want to be part of creating a positive environment for children. Youth sports aren't the time to tailgate before or after games or to send a mixed message to kids about what is healthy behavior by smoking on the sidelines or in the stands. And number 10, monitor the smile factor. When sports aren't fun, kids don't stick around. We know that 70% of kids quit sports by the age of 13 for many reasons, though lack of fun ranks as number one. So use these tips all season long, and you'll be glad you did. And you know what? So will your child.
Seem to be hearing a recurring thing about having fun. So as parents, there are different ways to communicate with our kids. A slideshow of phrases that can help create a great experience between you and your child. Before games, relay your child to have your child have fun. So before your competition, ask them to have fun, play hard, and finish by saying, I love you. After the competition, instead of going over the details of the game, start with the question, did you have fun? Then followed up by, I'm proud of you. Then again, finish with, I love you. If your child wants to continue with the conversation, they will. This is a picture of Craig's daughter. Craig used to work with the athletics department and help out in the slide presentation. He helped out with this slide presentation. Together, now works for the Town and Community Recreation Center as a facilities person. As a recreation coordinator, we'll get Craig's title right, recreation supervisor in charge of the recreation center. So he asked his daughter, how was the game? This was her response. It was great. When the game was over, I got a juice box and a snack. Youth sports experience goes fast. Before you know it, it's all over. Probably don't think now with all the running around you do, juggling multiple practices and multiple kids, but it really does go fast. I would like you to think like a grandparent. Some grandparents come from long distances to see their grandchild play. They usually don't know that the other kids or their parents on the team. They don't know the record or the stats of the team. When watching the game, their focus is on their grandchild. Even if they are not playing, more than likely they are watching their grandchild on the sideline. After the game, they can't wait to greet their grandchild, who runs and hugs them. And one of the first things that grandparents say to his grandchild is, I love to watch you play. So, it's your final thought. Some people, as a parent, think you need to think like a grandparent. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy watching your child play and tell them that you love them. So the final thought is some people have to wait their entire life to meet their favorite player. I raised mine. So that concludes a part of the parents training. Now we're on to our COVID-19 2020. We want you to stay safe. So welcome to the worldwide pandemic. As fall sports get started, including flag football, soccer, and volleyball now outside, we will continue the following current guidelines from the state of Colorado and the CDC, Center for Disease Control. As with the summer, according to the CDC, the best defense for spreading COVID-19 is to practice social distancing, staying at least 6 feet between each other, wash your hands frequently, avoid touching your face, and wear face coverings. Face coverings are now mandatory in Colorado indoors, and if you can't maintain social distancing, you will need to wear a face covering outdoors. You can find our complete youth COVID-19 guidelines on Team Sideline/Windsor. On the field, we are allowed 25 participants, not including coaches and officials. For a complex like Boardwalk Park, Eastman Park, Diamond Valley, and Chimney Park, under the guidelines, we are all allowed 175 people, including players, coaches, staff, and spectators. Because of this, we are scheduling games differently, which means playing games on weekdays and usually using additional facilities on Saturdays. To give you an example, on a normal year, on any given Saturday, we would have around 4,500 people at Eastman Park between 9 o'clock in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. Every hour, there would be almost 1,000 people at Chimney Park or at Eastman Park. This year, we are limited to 175 people per side of the park. So we need to make the changes. Another big change is volleyball. Youth volleyball is traditionally an indoor sport. This year, we are playing volleyball outside. This season, we didn't have access to indoor facilities, so felt that outdoors would be a good option. Another change, so we can keep the maximum numbers, is limiting the amount of spectators each game. We ask that you only bring 2 spectators per participant. At all outdoor events, we encourage you to wear face coverings. If you're unable to keep socially distant from others outside your family, you are required to wear a face covering. As you've probably heard, the Colorado High School Activity Association, known as CHASA, has postponed several fall sports, including football, soccer, and volleyball. So the question arises, why can't recreation centers and recreation districts like ours run those sports programs, but high school can't? We have some flexibility to provide healthy and safe leagues with modifications not afforded high school and middle school sports. For example, we offer smaller team sizes, less travel due to our teams being from this area. Parents are able to transport, modified number of practices, smaller crowds at games compared to large stadiums like a football stadium. And we can also modify our rules and we play our sports in large open parks. For teams playing in our leagues, we will have hand sanitizer available for each team. If you're playing at one of our main parks, there are also soap and water in our restrooms. Each player is encouraged to bring and use their own equipment. If they're unable to bring their own equipment, teams will need to sanitize between uses. Football, soccer, and volleyballs will all be provided for teams for use along with sanitizer. Bring your own water bottles. No longer will coolers be available and drinking fountains are all turned off. No longer can you eat sunflowers or shelled nuts or seeds, including sunflower seeds, peanuts, or pistachio nuts. And again, we reiterate, wearing face coverings is encouraged or mandatory depending on your distance between others. An example, the spectators are sitting close together. Other than in their family, they must wear a face covering. Another example, if a team huddles up to discuss the game without social distancing, they must wear a face covering. Players who are actively participating are not required to wear a face covering. We will schedule games and practices so to allow participants and spectators to spread out to allow for social distancing. At least that's the plan for now. When your child goes to practice, if they bring their own equipment, make sure they keep a separation of at least 10 feet between their equipment and others. Currently, we are scheduling only one practice per week for soccer and volleyball. Football will start with 2 until weekday games start. Then they practice only once a week. One practice a week allows us to abide by the 175 maximum. If your team is interested in practicing more than once on a particular week, please let us know so we can schedule it and spot for a spot that doesn't go over the maximum. For contact, this is for contact tracing. All practices must be scheduled through the town. On game days, teams need to show up to the park only 10 to 15 minutes prior to the game. Use the designated area, usually an open field or space, to warm up. Parents and spectators need to stay in their vehicles until the game is about to start. In the previous games, parents get in their vehicles. Spectators, again, are encouraged to bring their own chairs. During the game, keep your congratulations to air fives, no high fives or fist bumps or handshakes. For coaching, no close-up coaching. Keep your conference with players and officials at a distance. We also ask that when your ball is out of play, to be sanitized. To do this, rotate the game balls frequently. Spectators, it's easy to congregate after the game. Unfortunately, we are asking you not to do that this season. Following this game or following your game, wait in your designated area, find your child, and then leave the complex immediately, following physical distancing. For players and coaches, no post-game huddle or talks, and clean up your area from equipment and trash. As schools have started to open, it wasn't a question of if, but when there would be a positive case of COVID-19. That is most likely the case with youth sports too. Our focus is to follow guidelines to keep your child, the volunteers, spectators, and staff healthy and safe. If you and your child has any signs or symptoms, do not attend practice or game. In the event of a positive test, meaning someone, either a player, parent, staff, or volunteer tests positive for COVID-19, it's that person's responsibility to report. With the known positive, we can now convey that information to others that were in close contact with the person. Anyone in close contact must quarantine for 14 days. Close contact means that you were within 6 feet of the person sneezed, coughed, or someone got droplets on you, or you had some kind of physical contact in an extended period of time. Individuals who have COVID-19 must isolate. Public safety is everyone's responsibility, and prevention is our best tool. Throughout this season, please practice physical distancing, keeping 6 feet between each other. Wash your hands frequently, avoid touching your face, and wear a face covering. With all of us doing our part, we can help stop the spread and have a healthy, safe, and fun league. Before COVID-19 was a hot topic, the topic for sports was concussions. Volunteer coaches are required to attend to take a concussion training each year. With the partnership between the town of Windsor and Banner Health has been offering free concussion training to youth league parents. This year we are doing, like other trainings, online. Elise Lemfier has graciously recorded the training for us.
Hello, my name is Elise Lamfier, and I'm the program coordinator at Banner Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. And I'm going to talk about concussion information and the key points that you should take home with you to kind of make sure you're as prepared you can be for the upcoming season in all sports. So this isn't just specific to football. Really, this is general concussion information that goes across the board and is just general good information to know. I am going to get rid of the thumbnail so everybody knows who I am, but we're going to get going. So I'm going to define what a concussion is and discuss the signs and symptoms of concussion and when to refer to a doctor. Review the return to play protocol for concussions and why that's really important. So what is a concussion? A concussion is a trauma to the brain. That can be a force to the head, that can be a force to the body, it can be anything that causes the brain to move around in the skull. And that then relates to a chemical disruption. So people think that maybe, why do we worry about CT scans and MRIs when someone gets a concussion? Is it just because we're afraid they're going to be getting a brain bleed? But the reality is, if someone just has a normal concussion, it's a chemical disruption. Let me say that again. It's not a vessel or a vascular issue where someone gets a brain aneurysm and bleeds in their brain. That can happen. But someone who has just a normal concussion is a chemical disruption. And then that disturbs the pathways. So the chemical disruption really relates to the nerves in your brain and how they communicate. And so they're used to communicating back and forth easily, but when there's this disruption, that means that how they communicate is disrupted, and that's why we feel crummy when we have a concussion. And so the brain is like, hey, I need more energy because I have this chemical disruption, I need extra help, but really the brain kind of decreases the flow of things because it's injured and there's this disruption that it's trying to figure out how to repair. And so then you get a concussion symptom. So that's all of the above: headache, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, kind of in a fog, nauseous, things like that. I am a certified athletic trainer and I work under Dr. Lauren Rudolph, who's our sports medicine physician. And we use these two tools on the left-hand screen, the SCAT-5, which is a widely used, known, evidence-based tool that is really simple and easy to use, and is a very good tool to use, and then the impact concussion test, which is another tool in our toolbox that we use. It's a computer-based program that really is best effective when there's a baseline, meaning how does someone's brain function normally? It's a cognitive test, meaning how well are your brain working and is it causing you symptoms? And it's all due to this chemical to the brain. That can be a force to the head, that can be a force to the body, it can be anything that causes the brain to move around in the skull. And that then relates to a chemical disruption. So people think that maybe, why do we worry about CT scans and MRIs when someone gets a concussion? Is it just because we're afraid they're going to be getting a brain bleed? But the reality is, if someone just has a normal concussion, it's a chemical disruption. Let me say that again. It's not a vessel or a vascular issue where someone gets a brain aneurysm and bleeds in their brain. That can happen. But someone who has just a normal concussion is a chemical disruption. And then that disturbs the pathways. So the chemical disruption really relates to the nerves in your brain and how they communicate. And so they're used to communicating back and forth easily, but when there's this disruption, that means that how they communicate is disrupted, and that's why we feel crummy when we have a concussion. And so the brain is like, hey, I need more energy because I have this chemical disruption, I need extra help, but really the brain kind of decreases the flow of things because it's injured, and there's this disruption that it's trying to figure out how to repair. And so then you get a concussion symptom. So that's all of the above: headache, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, kind of in a fog, nauseous, things like that. I am a certified athletic trainer, and I work under Dr. Lauren Rudolph, who's our sports medicine physician. And we use these two tools on the left-hand screen, the SCAT-5, which is a widely used, known, evidence-based tool that is really simple and easy to use, and is a very good tool to use, and then the impact concussion test, which is another tool in our toolbox that we use. It's a computer-based program that really is best effective when there's a baseline, meaning how does someone's brain function normally. It's a cognitive test, meaning how well are your brain working, and is it causing you symptoms. And it's all due to this chemical disruption that occurs. So there's a trauma to the brain that allows then a chemical disruption, then that disturbs neural pathways, and then that increases brain energy demands, but really the body's like, hey, something's going on, so they don't want to flood the brain with blood flow, and then concussion symptoms occur. So this is a chemical disruption, not a vascular disruption. Another thing I like to say is just because someone didn't get knocked out or lose consciousness does not mean that they do not have a concussion. They don't have to lose consciousness at all. So 90% of concussions in sports specifically do not involve loss of consciousness. So I think that's something that's really important to remember, whether that's in volleyball or lacrosse or football or soccer. You do not have to lose consciousness, and it's actually a rarity that people do. I like to use the example of, I don't know if you guys ever did in science class, parents, where you took the egg and you patted it really a lot and then dropped it from a height and wanted to see if the shell was disrupted. Well, that's kind of what happens in a concussion. Obviously, your brain isn't scrambled eggs, but it moves around. The helmet in football or hockey, for instance, prevents that shell or your skull to get fractured. But that doesn't mean that your brain still isn't moving around and can get injured, hence the chemical disruption again. So that is the main kind of breakdown of what a concussion actually is. There's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misinformation out in the media, and so this is science. This is the description of what a concussion is. So no two concussions are exactly the same. I like to show this and kind of, clearly there's, a lot of neck injuries can be involved with a concussion. This is just a ball to the head. Also, they're also having body contact, and so that's just a force distributed through the body. So are you concerned about a possible concussion? If one of your athletes gets hit in the head, whether it's by an opponent or they fall to the ground, and they all of a sudden report a symptom like a headache, dizziness, nausea, fog, or just doesn't feel right, or extreme tiredness, like more than I just played, half of soccer or football, or I just played, a set in volleyball. You need to really evaluate if the kiddo or the athlete had no symptoms and all of a sudden there was an impact, a fall, or something that occurred, and then they have symptoms. That is a concern for a concussion. So when in doubt, you need to sit them out. Sorry. Okay, when to seek medical services. Some red flag kind of symptoms that we need to watch out for is if they have midline neck pain or neurological complaints. So this means that they're like, oh my gosh, my neck really hurts, or I feel like I can't move, or I can't feel any of my limbs. Those do not move the athlete. A lot of times our reaction is just to pull them up real fast, and that is not what we need to do. We do not need or want to move the athlete if they have these symptoms, and you need to call 911 and have the ambulance take them. Along with loss of consciousness greater than 1 minute. Seems short, but man, it feels like an eternity. So it's more than, oh, I just kind of, I feel like I got knocked out for a second, and then they're talking to you. That's different than they're laying motionless on the ground. Obviously, if they don't have circulation, they're not breathing, or they're having a seizure-like activity, all reasons to call. What if we just have none of the big scary signs, but what if something's wrong with my skull, meaning that there's an indentation, you're bleeding, things like that? When do we go to the emergency room or the emergency department? And then a severe headache, meaning this is the worst headache they've ever had in their life, and they've just had an event. You need to go to the hospital. Or they're actively or repeatedly vomiting. So some people's response to pain is to vomit one time. That does not count as wanting to go to the urgent care or emergency department. By all means, as a parent, it is up to your discretion, but as a certified athletic trainer, if someone vomits just one time and is back to themselves, then I'm not going to have them go to the emergency room. Also, if the athlete's symptoms just acutely worsen, all of a sudden they aren't able to talk. They feel even more out of it. They're not able to follow conversation. They don't know where they are. Their memory is getting worse. They are maybe vomiting more, or let's say their pain is getting worse. Those are times to go in your private vehicle to the emergency room or urgent care. And then obviously you're the parent. If you would like to have further evaluation, it is more than okay to go there. So what about primary care physicians? This is kind of where we tend to want most of our concussions to go to first. Your primary care physician knows your athlete, knows your kiddo, and so do you. And so this should be within 2 to 3 days of the injury. And so either you've been to the emergency room and they tell you that they need to follow up in this, they need to kind of be evaluated for their progress, and we have to have an extensive conversation about the return to school, to sport. All right, concussion specialist. So that would be a little bit more towards Dr. Rudolph, or maybe your primary care just wants your kiddo to see us. That would be ongoing symptoms that is longer than 2 weeks. A normal time frame for a concussion can be 7 to 10 to 21 days to fall under the normal time frame. Adolescents tend to take longer to recover than adults. And it's because their brains are still maturing. There's a lot going on. They have a lot to focus on, and they have what we call cognitive overload, and that exacerbates their symptoms. Someone who has multiple concussions, we don't put a number anymore on, oh, they've had 3 concussions, so they can't participate in sports anymore. We don't do that. It's very based on person to person and situation. And then if you are concerned or you would like to discuss retirement or disqualification in sports, we are the ones to have that conversation. So what about prolonged concussion symptoms? Prolonged is kind of an interesting word. This can be just anything between 7 to 21 days. Difficulty thinking clearly, feeling slowed down, concentrating, remembering. So this is what we call cognitive overload. So what happens in school? All of these things. So we come up with an academic accommodation, and something your primary care should also be putting together. And if they're not comfortable, then we should be the ones, the concussion program, to do this. We in conjunction with the school nurses, and most schools have concussion teams, we create a plan for them, for the athlete, in trying to mitigate all of this kind of cognitive or thinking, brain focusing activity. Along with physical, obviously, is headache, nausea, or vomiting early on. Balance and dizziness, this is a big one. This can really be affected when someone hits their head, because a lot of your vision parts of your brain where you get hit is the back of your skull. And so that is why balance and dizziness can really be a problem. It may need and require further treatment, such as a vestibular physical therapist or an ocular professional, more than just your optometrist, but there are ocular specialists to help with eye tracking and those types of things. Feeling tired or having no energy, sensitivity to noise and light, all normal physical things when someone has a concussion, along with an emotional or mood. So increased irritability. I know a lot of us have teenagers, and so it's kind of hard to discern what's more one or the other, along with sadness. This is something that is not like I have a broken ankle and someone can physically see what's going on. Even though I may feel that way, it's not something that the athlete can visually show someone, and this can lead to more depression, anxiety, and other stimulation related to their other social aspects to their life. And then sleep disturbances is something we see a lot. Either someone was in a traumatic accident, or maybe they keep thinking about how they got hurt. This can be something that is affected, along with your just sleep cycle is off. When someone, gets a concussion, they want to sleep a lot, and we are okay with that. I like to equate it a lot when a kid kind of goes through a growth spurt and you're like, oh, you woke up and you're taller. It's how your body repairs itself. So sleeping is okay, but we just have to try and get them more on a more natural, normal schedule. So concussion management, what do we do? So we really have to think about, if it makes you feel worse, then it has to stop. So cognitive rest, physical rest. We also do something called subthreshold exercise, and I'll talk a little bit about that and why that's important, but we no longer put someone in a dark room and shut off all the lights. It's really a management of those symptoms and really kind of getting that person progressively back into cognitive work and a low-level activity. So electronic media, sports, PE class, school, those are all exertions. So if it makes you feel exponentially worse, we have to try to mitigate that and manage it effectively. Remember, school comes first before sports. And I know it's a hard sell, but it's something that's very important and something that is mandatory for both school participation and medical clearance. You have to be able to get your grades up, be completely cognizant and able to manage and be back to normal before we're back to sport. So initial concussion care, stop activity, monitor athlete. You can give them Motrin, Aleve, ice. It used to be don't give them ibuprofen because it thins their blood, but research has shown recently that actually doesn't matter that much. And so just any of these pain relievers is fine. If they don't want to take medication, that is okay too. Nausea is also a sign, so making sure you eat small meals, and also dehydration is a big thing. So making sure that they are drinking right, they're eating small meals. They just probably are sweaty and hot too, so we need to make sure that we're still hydrating. And then control the environment, limit screen time, limit TV time and loud, maybe siblings that are around, and then difficulty concentrating and limiting schoolwork, which goes to the school plan. So why are we even here and talking about this? It is because of the Snakenburg Youth Concussion Act, enacted in March 29th, 2011. Unfortunately, Jake Snakenburg died of second impact syndrome, and it was the fact that he had gotten hit multiple times and didn't report his concussion. So this bill, to try and mitigate deaths, because a concussion and second impact syndrome is the reason why we care about concussion, because someone still has that chemical imbalance and the body and the brain has not fully healed itself, and then you get hit again, then that leads to catastrophic issues, brain damage, vegetation, and death. So this bill requires all coaches to be trained. If a hard hit happens and a kid kind of as an adult and people and they don't feel right, they need to be removed from play. The parents must be notified of the issue, and medical clearance for return to play must occur. This is the Colorado law, and you are negligent as a coach if you do not follow these rules. And so that's why we are here. That is why I'm going over this. This is why that is important. And this is kind of a busy slide, and I apologize, but this is a 6-step return to play protocol. Each step kind of takes 24 hours, so you cannot do multiple steps in a day. So light aerobic activity, this is walking or stationary bike no longer than 30 minutes, and this is just to increase your heart rate. Interval stationary bikes, no head impactivities yet, and that's the next level. So let's say they do this and they feel fine and they don't have any increase in symptoms. 24 hours later, so a day later, they then can move to sport-specific exercises, still no contact, but they're increasing the time, they're increasing the intensity, and then trying to move on. Let's say this kiddo has tried this and they just still kind of feel funny and not themselves. It's okay, we don't have to completely stop. Just the next day, so 24 hours later, you go back to the previous step. And that would be step 2 if we were on step 3. And so remember, every day is 24 hours and it should not be skipped. You cannot do more than one section in a day. So, questions? My name is Elise Lamfield, like I said. Dr. Lauren Rudolph is my primary care sports medicine physician that I work with, and we're a team. Please use my email if you have any other questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. So, thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you enjoyed this video.
Thank you, Elise. I appreciate your time and effort in putting into our concussion training. It really does help us understand our information for not only the coaches, but also parents on their role of the concussion protocols. So that concludes our parent meeting today. Hopefully you've learned about the 3 sports that we're working on, which is in flag football, soccer, and volleyball. And their parents, our expected parent behaviors, your COVID-19 protocols, and then your training on concussions. Fall season is just around the corner. Games start on September 12th, and we're excited about that. So we hope you have a great, healthy, and fun time in our youth sports program. Thank you very much for Town of Windsor Parks and Recreation. I'm Bobby Warner. I appreciate you joining us today.